Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Okay, we're streaming. So, I'm sure you all just saw the news, um, or maybe you didn't. With the meeting in China, Kim Jong-un apparently pledged for denuclearization of the North Korean peninsula. I am, of course, one thing you should all know by now, listening to me talk. Hopefully, you've read Dear Reader. If not, I don't blame you. It's basically the Necronomicon for the 21st century. But the point is, with North Korea, you can't take anything at face value. So there's three scenarios here, and I want to walk through all of them and give you my thoughts on what the possibilities are. First of all, and I'll answer questions after I'm done with my thought. There's three possibilities, as far as I can see, for Kim Jong-un and what he's doing. And don't ask about this cut over my eye. It was just dry skin. No one tried to stab me. First of all, he's committed. He's honestly committed to denuclearization. He is open to it, and he knows there's no chance of denuclearization. These are the three scenarios that are possible. What's going on behind the scenes? Let's talk about the third one. Let's suppose Kim Jong-un knows denuclearization is a dead end for his regime. This is probably the most realistic or conservative, let's say conservative approach. It's clearly the conservative approach. He knows perfectly well that no nation is really going to go to war with a nuclear nation. He knows perfectly well that everyone in the Trump administration, Tillerson, Bannon, others have said going to war with North Korea is not really an option. A military strike would effectively be perceived as going to war. So this idea that you'd be splitting hairs about this is erroneous. So if that is the case, that he is not at all interested in denuclearization, why would he say, I am committed to denuclearizing the peninsula? Well, that gives him some bargaining power, because now basically whatever Trump throws at him, he could say, look, I gave up the most important thing. I gave up what you wanted the most, denuclearization. And now you're not, taking away the sanctions. You're not giving me oil, giving me money. You're not ensuring the security of my regime. So that could be a trap, a very obvious, very easy trap. And he also has the thing about, look, I want peace on the Korean peninsula. President Trump, who's a lunatic dotard, warmonger and hawk and so on and so forth. We're the good guys, and it's the U.S. imperialists have really shown that they're the only ones who have a monopoly on nuclear weapons in the world, and that's in the order, not a monopoly, but whatever. So that's a very obvious possibility. That said, he wouldn't necessarily need to meet with Trump to go through this song and dance. On the other hand, he's like, look, I met with Trump, and I told him to his face, blah, 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 blah. Although he's going to have to look up, because I just retweeted the pictures from Rongnung Sinmun, which is North Korea's official newspaper, of the meetings with China. And you can look at my Twitter. And the height difference between the Chinese president and Kim Jong-un is quite spectacular. I don't know why I just said spectacular. As Madeleine Albright, when she was there in 2000, pointed out, in her memoir, she wrote, I wore high heels, so did he. This was Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un's father, and the subject of my book. Let's go to the first scenario, which is they are committed to denuclearization. Maybe he's like, look, North Korea is a small country. We want to join the League of Nations, so to speak. We want to be treated as a player on the world stage. And we know, given what the UN said, what Russia, China, Japan, South Korea are saying, we know a prerequisite for us not to be a rogue nation is to denuclearize. We get it. Why the hell would that be his opening gambit? If that were true, if he's committed, then he should say, he's not a dummy, and even if he is a dummy, the people around him aren't dummies. He would say, we are open to denuclearization, and if you dangle that carrot, you can get enormous concessions from everybody, especially if you're ready. You're like, and if you're committed to selling the house at zero cost. You're like, you know what? This house sucks. Bed bugs, it's haunted. I'm getting raped every night. even $1 at that point is an improvement. You're like, I just got to get out of this house. So if he's committed to denuclearization, maybe it's expensive, so on and so forth. Again, you don't go into that meeting and say, this house is haunted and bed bugs, I'll sell it for $1. You take what you can get. So that also is one scenario. The middle scenario, which is plausible, is that they are considering denuclearization, but at the same time, they are, on the fence about it. If that's the case, it could be a simple lie. He could say, look, China, we're playing by your rules. We're more worried about you than America. China has more sway over us. China shares the border. China's ideology is closer than us. We used to be China used to be our patron state for many years alongside the Soviet Union. We want to reestablish that. We're trying. We're working with you, China. But America, they're the bad guys. And this could be a possibility for them to create a wedge between Chinese and American relationships. And for all we know, this could be the Chinese saying, we're the peacemakers. We got him to denuclearize, and America's unreasonable. And this could be part of China's attempt to create a new dual pole world where instead of during the Cold War, it was the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Now it's the U.S. versus China. So these are all possibilities. What is not a possibility is what I'm sure you're going to hear from conservatives who are like, oh, thanks to Trump, they gave up their nukes. They have given up nothing so far. Until the nukes are dismantled, even if they are committed to giving up their nukes. They've done that before. Why wouldn't they? Why the hell would a nation... Maybe I should say heck. I haven't gotten validated yet for super chats. Why the heck would a nation that has concentration camps, whose entire media establishment is all lies, whose foundation myth that the U.S. imperialists started the Korean War is a lie, why would they have any problem lying to their archenemy and saying, yeah, we're going to give up the nukes? Absolutely. Let me remind everybody, and I've pointed this out many times, they do these vacillations where they're the bad guys, then they're the doves, hawk doves. Last summer, we're going to nuke Guam. November, they sentenced President Trump to death in absentia. So again, you don't go from, I'm going to kill you, to, now that I've thought about it, I'm just going to give up all my weapons and let you come to my house. What? Again, these people have been around for 70 years. They have outlasted everybody except Cuba. They are not dumb, and this is not by accident. But the point is, they didn't outlast everyone like the coelacanth, that they're this pocket in the bottom of the ocean and no one knows about them. They've outlasted everyone despite intense pressure from their so-called allies, China and Russia, and their enemies and rivals, South Korea, Japan, and America, and from economics itself, not having food. So these are just things to remember. Calm down. You know what? That should be the motto with regards to North Korea. Whenever you hear any news, calm down. Everyone wants to be apoplectic all the time. It's just mind-boggling to me. This is a positive step in a sense, but they haven't actually done anything besides flap their gums. Okay, now, after that 9-minute monologue, I'm going to read the questions and see what you guys have to ask. Okay, Michael, they're going to try killing you. How do you kill someone who's already dead? That don't make no sense. If they agree to denuclearization, who will be responsible for checking that they upheld there in the bargain? UN. Yeah, okay, that's another great question. I talk about this in my book, that basically the UN, Hans Blix was the head of the team. They kept asking for more and more inspections because the North Koreans were being shady about it. And the North Korean thing was like, oh, now you just want to spy on us. So how the heck are you going to, have any kind of commitment to that? So that's another major, major question. And I'm sure the cost is going to be quite high. And you know what? If they're saying we're going to give up nukes and America has to make sure that this regime and its depravity stays in power and isn't criticized, I mean, think about that. That's a sick, sick deal. Okay, what else do we have here? Juche idea works, obviously. Okay, that's fair. It does work. It works to maintain their hold on power. I know most things are getting better, but in what ways are things getting worse? I don't know what you mean. You mean North Korea or in general? If loosening sanctions is enough, what would make them feel about denuking? Why would anyone who everyone on Earth wants to take out denuke? Libya is the prime example, and I talk about this in my book. When the people at these countries go down, Romania is the example Kim Jong-il himself used with his party cadres. When these leaders go down, they are personally killed, and with good reason. So this would be a huge... I mean, if you're in a Mexican standoff, it takes or a hostage situation to hand over your guns to your enemy while your enemy's not handing over your guns is a really very specific move. I don't have my Monster. I drank it earlier because it's already 11:50 East Coast, so I'm drinking my Kool-Aid, as I seen on Stefan Molyneux. Okay. Hey, Tovarish, got any new anecdotes? Oh, God, why did I read that? Um, da, 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 da. You drinking a wine cooler? No, I'm not. It's Kool-Aid. Is Kim trying to up the stakes by dangling denuclearization for Trump to make him think there's a real shot at it? Yeah, that is one of the absolutely realistic scenarios. Can Americans still visit North Korea travel despite the travel ban? That's a good question. So when you go to North Korea, you go via China, and when you're in North Korea itself, they give you a piece of paper that goes inside your passport that they take out when you leave. So there's no record within your passport itself. When I got back to, I think it was LaGuardia, the guy goes, "How was your trip?" I go, "It's all right." He's like, "Why all right?" I go, "I was in North Korea." He goes, "Welcome back, stomp." Now it might be, but I still think you when you get a Chinese visa, you get it for like a month. So I think you would be able to get around it pretty easily. I'm not sure. Once the administration is salivating the potential that they'll be responsible for defusing the world's biggest threat, they'll start to panic at the prospect of losing it and increase their offer. We don't know what Trump is like in an international negotiation. We have no evidence of this one way or another. And we don't know who's going to be doing the negotiating on his behalf. On the one hand, he got the tax cuts. On the other hand, he got the omnibus. So these are two examples of him being a great negotiator and repealing the individual mandate, which was a major Republican accomplishment. So on the one hand, you have him doing great negotiating. To what extent he gets credit for that, I don't know. On the other hand, you have complete surrender. What would open free trade and end the camps and U.S. end sanctions, move military out of South Korea be a good deal? Oh my God, I would love that. We don't need to be in South Korea. So if we get out of South Korea and they end the camps, great. Please take that in a second. Who punched you in my eye? Whoever loves me. Give me a wrench. I don't know what that means. I'm not calling you that. Kim looked relatively unhappy and blank-faced during his meeting. Typically, he's cheery and smiling during his public outings. Is he miserable right now? No, or is the bleakness formality? Right. So when he's at home in North Korea, fun, happy, I'm enjoying working hard for the people. Now when he's in other countries, it's like, this is serious business here, and I'm taking care of it for you, my dear Korean people. What is Oh, the screen just blurred. What is South Korea's role? It seems there are more diplomatic activity happening recently. It's very clear that they're being a go-between and information is being fed to the U.S. via South Korea. And obviously we're certainly, I would hope, in close contact with them and what they want before we proceed at anything, because they're the ones who are the biggest targets by far in this whole situation. Thoughts on Daft Punk to mainstream? So basically, DPRK playbook. Just say you will denuke, get supplies, then say you won't. That has historically been the case. This could be different because this is a different leader. He's young. He also wants to be a cosmopolitan. So these are two possibilities that could go differently. And Trump is clearly a very different president from Obama and George W. Bush. North Korea people are probably at their tipping point, and Kim is afraid. They're not at their tipping point. They're not even close to the tipping point. Cuba wasn't at their tipping point. Cuba's much worse, much better off. Repealing the individual mandate. What is that? It's something on Google. Is North Korea on the brink of collapse? North Korea has already collapsed. In the 90s, what they called the Arduous March was a complete collapse of North Korea. It was a failed state, and the famine happened as a consequence. Are you familiar with the band Beach House? Yes, not a fan. How do you pronounce... I'm not reading that out loud. Could the black market just become so strong it topples communism? Yeah, North Korea doesn't identify as communist. They, in many ways, more closer to Nazism and fascism. The black market, it would absolutely be a central key. And in many of these countries, it's like when you go through the black market to get food and money, that's a major way to help you not view the regime as legitimate. The North Korea travel companies were British based in China, but they said they wouldn't take people with U.S. passports. Okay, Thaddeus, thank you very much for that information. Did you side with Andrew Jackson on his war against the banks? I am not an Andrew Jackson fan. He is a wretch. And Brian McClanahan, in his book about the presidents who effed up the Constitution, correctly takes Jackson to task. A wrench means moderator status. It gives people extra options on the chat. Oh, okay. Thank you. Which of you books should I read first? Dear reader, if Kim Jong-un were to be willing to throw out the baby with the bathwater in order to modernize DPRK and the people benefit, what's the unfortunate chance he'd be assassinated by one of his own? It would not be that way, but he would certainly lose a lot of security. And look, his own are the ones who are going to be shot also. Are you going to celebrate Russian Easter? I don't know where to begin correcting that question. In what sense are you Warholian? He is the source of my views on how culture is created heavily. How do you think the meeting will go with Kim and Trump? I talked about that. Possible assassination attempt. By whom? It's not possible. Guest suggestion. Anyone willing to fight you about peaceful parenting? I don't have a strong stance on peaceful parenting, and Luis J. Gomez was my guest about this, and we discussed it at length. And it was a very good show. He's a very bright guy. Favorite Rubber Rodeo song or album? It's got to be... Anywhere with you. Do you listen to ska? I loathe it. It might be one of my least favorite genres of music. Have you heard Danger? I have not. Does North Korea really think we're showing these fake public displays to visitors and they're totally buying it? What? I don't know what that means. Tae Young-ho said the regime will collapse suddenly within the next 5 years. We've been hearing that since 94. When they said Kim Jong-il will, and they talk about this in my book also. Kim Jong-il boasts. He mentions Charles Krauthammer by name. Like, oh yeah, he's not going to last a month. He lasted till he died. So it always happens. Oh, in 5 years, in 5 years. Same thing with the U.S. Oh, the debt's too high. It's going to collapse. Where's the collapse? North Korea's already collapsed. Once. Is Malice an Anglo... Okay. I want a chainsaw, not a wrench. Okay. How high up the chain of command does bribery go in North Korea? It goes up pretty high because there's a Russian word blat, which means like, how did you get it? It's through shady connections. So the higher up you are, the North Korea is a gangster regime. So there is a wing of the North Korean government whose job internationally is to do like illegal arms shipments to raise money for the Kim family. So this is part and parcel from the very top of their country. Kim Jong-nam, who was murdered by his brother Kim Jong-un, was getting money for an illegal arms shipment in Japan when he was arrested. What is your response to people who say, if you didn't vote, you can't complain? Watch me. Brave New World or 1984? Okay. I'm going to have an Autism Speaks moment. I have never understood why Brave New World is considered a dystopia. At all. I think that is exactly what most people want. Where can I go to read your personal thoughts and opinions on culture and politics? It's right here. Best source to learn what Warhol said about culture. Warhol did not talk much about culture. There's a couple of books, Factory Made, and Popism, and Victor Baccharis wrote a biography of him. So those three. And Camille Paglia is the one who talks about Warhol and his effect. Faith No More fan. No. Um, what would be the first domino to fall for when North Korea inevitably collapses? Well, when it's a collapse, it's not going to be one domino. It's going to be all of them. You know what I mean? What is the art scene in North Korea like? I talk about this in my book very heavily. It's all propaganda, and there's a Mangdongye art studio which exports art, which is the highest honor. Why do you hate ska? Because I have taste. Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. No, God, no. Top Chat is censored. Switch to live chat. I can't. When I'm looking through this window in OBS, it automatically shows Top Chat, which is very annoying. Are you a fan of LCD Sound System? I have one song by them. New York, I love you, but you're breaking my heart. Do you think the U.S. will collapse anytime soon? No. What is preventing revolution in North Korea? Someone who hasn't read my book. If you read the appendix of 1984, it seems optimistic because it's written in past tense, implying Big Brother fell. Okay. Didn't Andy hate Jane Fonda? I don't know. If you think that... What? Brew is okay for people to... I don't know what that means. Beach Fossils fan. Don't know them. Does Kim Jong-un have access to good medical care? Yes. So there is a hospital in North Korea specifically for the longevity of the leader. Meanwhile, everyone else has rusty syringes and line up to give skin grafts when there's a fire. They actually do this, and it's a point of pride for them. Instead of which domino first to fall is not going to be one single thing that triggers the collapse, or just going to be all at once, like you say. I'm not. We don't know. We don't know what the collapse is going to look like. So it could be. Look, if you ask me what's going to make the Arab Spring, am I going to say, oh yeah, someone in Tunisia is going to set themselves on fire? I mean, you never know what it's going to be, what that straw is that breaks the camel's back. Did you like Dinosaur Barbecue? Very much. Other than basketball, what else does Kim Jong-un love about Western popular culture? We don't know. Are you going to read Conspiracy? Yes. What are you reading? I'm reading Anna Applebaum's book, The Iron Curtain, The Crushing of Eastern Europe. You can see whatever I'm reading at any time at my Goodreads. Okay, I got 5 more minutes of this. Make friends with Scott Horton so you could have him on your show. You can increase font size in chat by hitting Control Plus. Okay. Starship Trooper is also falsely considered dystopian. Okay. If you could own weapons in New York City, would you own guns? In a heartbeat. I looked into this. It's like almost impossible. Any country music you like. Well, Matt Hughes' song is Country Boy Can Survive. I don't dislike country at all. I don't listen to any, but when I'm around people who listen to country, I enjoy it unironically. I think a lot of country music is great, just absolutely great. Just not what I go to. Mike, quick, tell me the future. I need the lottery numbers. I have a gambling problem. 1488. Why do you sound so strongly opposed to going on the Contra cruise? Because I am a very big introvert, and whenever I go to an event, I need an escape hatch. And I told Tom Woods that I got sent to go on a cruise for free. And I'm like, okay, this will be my litmus test. And I hated every minute of it. So that is that. You said Daft Punk was too mainstream. You really aren't an anarchist. Yeah, duh. Is there a Sasquatch equivalent in North Korea? Ooh, I don't think there is. That's a great question. Strangely fascinated by North Korea. Thanks for insights. Peace. Peace is, yeah. Sturgill Simpson? I don't know what that is. You are adorable. Can confirm. Will you do a book tour? It depends on St. Martin's, but I will probably at least make it a point to go to LA. Chicago's ugly. I don't know where else I'll go. I might make a fun little road trip with the gang. When does your new Right book come out? I don't know. I'm waiting to hear back from the editor. God forbid he replies. Fan of Sebastian Lawns. I don't know who that is. Suburban Lawns. Don't know them. Pink Floyd does a final tour, the complete band, and 30 Years Younger. Do you see them? Only if I have a rifle and a what do you call it? A gauge. Jesus. They're terrible. The reason the Sex Pistols got together is that Johnny Rotten walked into the Malcolm McLaren's and Vivienne Westwood's store Sex with a shirt that said "Fuck Pink Floyd." What do you think of Laura Loomer? I had her on my show. She is a hoot, big heart. It was a really fun episode. She's always very nice to me. Are you familiar with the term international art speak? I'm not. Who is publishing a new book? St. Martin's. Susie and the Banshees? No. I've hit that like button, and so should you. Well, that's very nice. New Order. I do like New Order. Okay, I am going to do. How many people in the U.S. government is a realistic option in the North Korea? What? How many people is the U.S. government? I don't know what that means. Have you not been on Milo's show? I've been on twice. Not the new one. Laura Loomer and the Dirty Bloomers. Google. You mean goggle it? Favorite science fiction? I'm not a sci-fi fan at all. I like Piers Anthony's trilogy set of books where it's one half of the world is magic and the other half is science. The Apprentice Adept series. 9-Inch Nails? No. What do you say to the response that they're made on government roads, schools, and other subsidized means? Is your argument about most relationships are anarchic? I say okay. Are my questions stupid, or are you just ignoring them, Michael? Both. Do you prefer New Order or Joy Division? I don't know enough about them. Fish? How do I block that person? Get the hell out of here. When are you doing something Ben Shapiro? We've never interacted in any way. Best advice for trolling. Be comfortable in having people think that you're whatever bad quality you want. And don't engage them on that. Egg them on. So if they think you're dumb, add typos. If they think you're racist, don't say, oh, I'm not racist. Say, if I'm so racist, then some stupid comment. What do you listen to since everything is shit to you? Do you not see these CDs? Always been an anarchist. No. Best bad good movie. Oh, gosh. Oh, God. I mean, tweet that at me so I can look through my DVDs. Do South Koreans want reunification? They don't. It's certainly, and it's very generational. Bowie 70s versus Bowie 80s. It's Bowie 70. I mean, what? Best way to troll but not lose your job. That's not my problem. That is my job, motherfucker. How long are you under contract for at Compound? As long as I want. Does Cash Cab have chosen guests or is it random? That's a great question to end this on. Look up, and thanks for all the contributions. They're really appreciated for these live streams. Whatever. I wrote an article about how I did Cash Cab. You can look up Michael Malice Cash Cab Thought Catalog. You're not told it's Cash Cab, but you are told you're going to be on a show. Guys, hope this was helpful and informative. And I will see you tomorrow on my show at 2:30 with the guy who got me into North Korea, Ed. So have a good night, and you are not welcome.